The emergency beacon cut through space like a scream in the dark. It pulsed in the universal distress frequency, the one signal every species in the galaxy understood. Help us, please help us. The message repeated over and over, carrying with it coordinates and a desperate plea from beings who had never known fear before this moment. Rodriguez sat in the pilot seat of the cargo hauler Wildfire, running through another boring supply manifest. 300 crates of protein bars, medical supplies, and water filters destined for the mining colony on Outpost 7. The same route she had flown 1,000 times. Her fingers stopped moving across the data pad when the distress signal lit up her communication panel. She read the message twice, then reached for the ship-wide intercom. All hands, we have an emergency situation. Someone needs help and we're the closest ship. She didn't wait for responses. Her fingers were already plotting a new course, the cargo run forgotten. The Wildfire began its turn toward the coordinates, engines building to full power. Williams appeared in the doorway within seconds, still pulling on his uniform jacket. What are we looking at? Unknown species. They're calling themselves the Harmony Collective. Says their colony is under attack. Rodriguez pulled up the message details on the main screen. No military vessels in range. We're it. We're a cargo ship. Williams leaned over her shoulder, reading the coordinates. We're not exactly equipped for combat rescue. We're human. Rodriguez began accessing the weapons locker codes. That'll have to be enough. Get Foster and her Marines ready. Full combat gear. Whatever is hitting these people, they're going to get a surprise when we show up. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Humanity had been in space for 200 years, and in that time, they had learned one critical lesson. The galaxy was not always friendly. While other species traveled with minimal security, human ships carried weapons, armor, and people trained to use both. Some called it paranoia. Humans called it common sense. Foster assembled her 8 Marines in the cargo bay, checking each person's armor seals and weapon charges. Listen up. We don't know what we're walking into. Could be pirates, could be a territorial dispute, could be something worse. Stay sharp, watch your corners, and remember your training. Ma'am, shouldn't we wait for actual military backup? One of the younger Marines, Hayes, shifted nervously. We're just cargo guards. We're Marines. Foster's voice cut through his doubt. And someone out there is dying while they wait for help. We don't get the luxury of waiting around. She locked her helmet into place. Besides, you volunteered for this job. Too late to get cold feet now. The Wildfire dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the sanctuary system. Rodriguez immediately activated every scanner they had. What she saw made her stomach tighten. The moon below was covered in what looked like a metal rash spreading across its surface. Thousands of small contacts moving in coordinated patterns converging on several concentrated points. Those are drones. Williams magnified the image. Some kind of automated mining equipment, maybe. But they're attacking the settlements. Rodriguez opened a channel to the planet. This is the human vessel Wildfire responding to your distress call. We're here to help. What's your situation? Static filled the speakers for a moment. Then a voice unlike anything they'd heard before came through. It sounded like wind chimes and crystals touching, translated through their communication system into words. You came. Oh, thank the light, someone came. The machines are everywhere. They're taking our people, breaking them down for materials. We tried to reason with them, but they don't listen. How many people do you have left? Rodriguez was already plotting an approach vector, keeping the ship between the moon and the main drone swarm. 4,000 in the main settlement, maybe another 1,000 scattered across the smaller colonies. The machines have already taken 800 of us. We don't have much time. Williams pulled up tactical displays. Rodriguez, we need to see what we're dealing with. Those drones are concentrated around 3 main hive structures. If this is automated, there might be a central control system. Foster and her Marines were already at the airlock, magnetic boots ready for possible zero-gravity combat. Send us down. We'll establish a perimeter around the civilians and start evacuation procedures. Negative. Rodriguez made a decision that would either save lives or doom them all. We're not evacuating. We're going to stop this. She opened the weapon ports. The Wildfire wasn't a warship, but like all human vessels, it could fight if needed. Foster, your team goes down to protect the civilians and gather intelligence. Williams, start scanning for weak points in those hive structures. I want to know how to kill these things. The crystalline voice came back over the speakers, confused and frightened. Kill them? But we called for rescue, for evacuation, not for violence. Rodriguez felt something twist in her chest. These beings had never faced a threat like this. They didn't understand that sometimes the only way to save lives was to take the fight to the enemy. Listen to me carefully. We're going to solve your problem, but we're going to do it the human way. That means we're going to break things and blow things up. It's going to be loud and scary, but when we're done, those machines won't threaten you anymore. But violence, destroying things, we don't. You asked for help. Rodriguez cut through the protest gently but firmly. This is what help looks like when humans answer. Now tell my Marines where your people are so we can keep them safe. The wildfire descended through the atmosphere, and Foster's team launched in drop pods toward the surface. Rodriguez watched them fall like meteors, carrying humanity's oldest tradition down to a world that had never known war. They came ready to fight because that was what evolution had taught them. Earth had tried to kill humanity for millions of years. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, starvation. Humans had survived by learning to fight back, to never give up, to protect their own with whatever force was necessary. The peaceful species below were about to learn what it meant when Deathworlders answered a cry for help. The drop pods hit the ground hard enough to crack the crystalline surface of Sanctuary. Foster was first out, rifle up and scanning for threats. The settlement around her looked nothing like human architecture. Instead of metal and concrete, everything seemed to be grown from living crystal, pulsing with soft bioluminescent light, beautiful, delicate, and completely indefensible. Spread out. Hayes Ortiz, take the north perimeter. Wilson and Brooks, you're on south. Nobody fires unless I give the order or you're taking direct hits. Foster moved toward what looked like the largest structure, where several crystalline beings were huddled together, their bodies flickering with colors that her translator couldn't interpret. One of them approached slowly, moving with a grace that seemed impossible. Up close, Foster could see that the being wasn't wearing clothes or armor. Its body was the crystal, transparent and shimmering, with light moving through it like blood through veins. When it spoke, its whole form resonated with the sound. You are the humans. You came armed. Why weapons if you come to help? Foster lowered her rifle slightly but kept it ready. Because the things attacking you won't stop unless we make them stop. I'm Lieutenant Foster. We need information fast. How many drones are we dealing with? Where did they come from? What do they want? The crystalline being's light dimmed, colors shifting to darker blues and purples. I am Shimmer, one of the colony elders. The machines, they appeared 6 days ago. They came from beneath the ground from the old mining tunnels. At first, just a few. We thought they were lost equipment. We tried to communicate, to guide them back to wherever they belonged. But they attacked. They grabbed our people and pulled them into processing chambers. We heard the sounds, the breaking. Shimmer's voice fractured on the last word. Processing chambers. They're harvesting you for raw materials. Foster felt anger build in her gut. She had seen automated systems go wrong before, but this was different. These were innocent people facing a threat they couldn't even conceptualize. Show me where they're coming from. We need to find the source. As Shimmer led Foster through the settlement, more Harmony people emerged from their shelters. They stared at the humans with what might have been fear or fascination. Foster noticed several pointing at her armor, at the weapon on her back, at her hands. One young Harmony individual, barely waist-high, approached Williams where he was setting up scanning equipment. Are you really from Earth? The dead planet? The young one's voice was full of wonder rather than horror. Williams looked up from his work, surprised. Earth isn't dead. Challenging, sure, but not dead. Why would you think that? Because the galactic databases say your world is classified as unsurvivable. Category 9 Deathworld. Nothing should be able to evolve intelligence there. Too many predators, too many diseases, too many natural disasters. The probability calculations say complex life should have gone extinct millions of times. The young Harmony's colors shifted to curious yellows and greens. But you survived. How? We adapted. Learned to fight back. Learned to make tools and weapons and medicine. Williams finished calibrating his scanner and stood up. Your world is what we'd call paradise. Perfect temperature, no predators, abundant resources. You never needed to develop defenses because nothing threatened you. But that means when a real threat shows up, you don't have the experience to handle it. The young one tilted in a way that might have been a nod. So you came ready to fight because fighting is normal for you. This is just another day. Something like that, kid. Now get back to your shelter. This is about to get dangerous. Back at the tunnel entrance, Foster was getting her first look at the drones. They moved on multiple legs, bodies made of scavenged metal and crystal, optical sensors glowing red. They worked with disturbing efficiency, cutting into the ground, harvesting material, building more of themselves. Hayes raised his rifle, but Foster signaled him to hold. We need intelligence before we start shooting. How many are there? What? Are there patrol patterns? Where's the central hub? She pulled out a reconnaissance drone no bigger than her fist and sent it flying down into the tunnels. The video feed showed hundreds of the machines, maybe thousands, all moving with coordinated purpose. Shimmer watched the screen over Foster's shoulder. There are so many. How can you possibly fight them all? We don't fight them all. We find what's controlling them and break it. Foster marked several locations on her tactical map. See these junction points? The drones are flowing through them in patterns. Something is directing them, probably deep underground, somewhere protected. But to reach it, you would have to go through all of them. You would be surrounded, trapped. That's suicide. Foster smiled, though Shimmer couldn't see it through her helmet. Humans are good at suicide missions. We've been doing impossible things since we figured out how to make fire. The question isn't whether we can do it. The question is how we minimize casualties and maximize damage to the enemy. Rodriguez's voice came through Foster's comm unit. Lieutenant, we've got a problem. The drone swarms are accelerating their harvesting operations. They've detected our presence and they're adapting. We have maybe 72 hours before they overrun the main settlement. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it fast. Understood. I'm sending up tactical data now. We need a plan to get a strike team to that central hub. Foster uploaded everything her drone had captured. And we need to prepare these people for what's coming. They've never seen combat before. When we start fighting, it's going to traumatize them. Shimmer's colors went pale, almost transparent. Fighting. You mean killing. Taking actions that destroy other things. We have words for these concepts, but they're theoretical. Our children learn about violence the way you might learn about impossible mathematics, as something that exists in abstract, but never in reality. Then I'm sorry. Foster meant it, because you're about to get a very real education. War is coming to Sanctuary whether you're ready or not. The only question is whether you survive it. Williams broke into the conversation, his voice urgent. Foster, Rodriguez, you both need to see this. I've analyzed the drone construction patterns. They're not just harvesting. They're exponentially reproducing. Every hour, their numbers increase by 20%. At this rate, in 3 days, they'll have enough mass to start consuming the entire moon. And if they get off-world, if they reach the asteroid belt or other planets, there won't be any stopping them. Rodriguez made a decision without hesitation. Then we end this now. Foster, prepare your team for deep insertion. Williams, I need demolition options for that central hub. We're going to hit them with everything we have. Shimmer's light pulsed with distress. But what about negotiation? Diplomatic solutions? Surely there must be a peaceful way to resolve this. Foster placed a hand on Shimmer's crystalline shoulder, feeling the strange coolness of it. Sometimes peace isn't an option. Sometimes the only way to protect what you love is to destroy what threatens it. That's the reality of survival. Humans learned it the hard way, over millions of years. You're learning it now, in days. I wish we could spare you this, but we can't. All we can do is stand between you and the darkness and make sure you live to see tomorrow. The Harmony Elder looked at the human Marine, at the weapon she carried, at the determination in her stance. For the first time in the history of the Harmony Collective, one of their people understood what it meant to be willing to kill to protect. Hayes checked his ammunition count for the third time in as many minutes. Around him, the other Marines were doing the same. Checking seals, testing communication links, making sure every piece of equipment was ready. It was the ritual before combat. the way humans prepared themselves to walk into danger. Shimmer watched from a distance, colors swirling with confusion and something that might have been fear. "Do you always prepare so carefully before helping people?" Shimmer asked. Hayes looked up, surprised the Harmony Elder had approached. "We're not just helping. We're fighting. Big difference. If we mess up, we die. If we die, you die. So yeah, we check everything twice." He patted his rifle. "This is what keeps us alive, but the violence of it. The weapons designed only to destroy. How do you carry such things and still call yourself civilized? Because civilization isn't about being peaceful." Hayes stood up, towering over the delicate crystalline being. "It's about choosing when to use force and when to hold back. My weapon doesn't make me a monster. It makes me a guardian. Big difference." Rodriguez's voice crackled through every Marine's helmet. All units were beginning the operation. Primary objective is the central hub located 17 kilometers underground. Secondary objective is protecting the civilian population from drone counterattacks. Wildfire will provide air support and orbital strikes on my command. This is going to get messy, people. Stay focused, stay alive. Foster led her team toward the main tunnel entrance. The drones had already detected them. Optical sensors turning red, bodies shifting into attack postures. There was no more time for reconnaissance or planning. This was the moment everything depended on. 8 humans against thousands of machines, remember your training. Overlapping fields of fire. Watch your corners. Call out targets. Foster raised her rifle. And for anyone keeping score back home, we're about to do something monumentally stupid. Let's make it count. The first drone lunged forward and Hayes pulled the trigger. The rifle barked, the sound shocking in the peaceful atmosphere of Sanctuary. The drone exploded into fragments of metal and crystal, then another and another. Within seconds, the entrance was filled with the sound of gunfire, explosions, and the screeching of dying machines. Back in the settlement, the Harmony people heard the battle begin. Many fled deeper into their shelters, colors flashing with terror. They had never heard weapons fire before. The sound of destruction was alien and horrifying to them, but some, like Shimmer, moved toward the sound instead of away. They needed to see. They needed to understand what these humans were doing to save them. What Shimmer saw defied everything the Harmony Collective believed about intelligent life. The humans moved through the battle like dancers, each motion purposeful and coordinated. When one Marine reloaded, another covered their position. When drones flanked from the side, someone was already there to intercept them. It was violence, yes, but it was also something else. It was art. The art of survival perfected over millions of years of evolution. Foster threw a grenade into a cluster of drones. The explosion shook the ground, and when the smoke cleared, a dozen machines lay in ruins. "Push forward. We need to reach the deep tunnels before they can reinforce." Brooks took a hit to the shoulder, the drone's cutting tool slicing through the outer layer of his armor. He grunted in pain but kept fighting one-handed, while his suit's medical systems pumped emergency sealant and painkillers into his system. To the Harmony people watching, it seemed impossible. The human was injured but didn't stop, didn't retreat, just kept moving forward. "Brooks is hit," Hayes called out. "I'm fine." Brooks shot another drone at point-blank range. Flesh wound. "Keep moving." The team pushed deeper into the tunnels. The drones came in waves now, learning, adapting. They started targeting the humans' joints, the weak points in their armor. But humans adapted too, faster, smarter. Foster adjusted their formation. Wilson deployed mobile barriers, and Ortiz started using explosive charges to collapse tunnels behind them, limiting the directions from which the drones could attack. Rodriguez watched from the wildfire, tracking her team's progress through the tactical display. They're reaching the primary junction. "Drone resistance is intensifying. Williams, can we get them any support?" Williams shook his head. "Too deep. Our weapons can't reach them without causing a complete tunnel collapse. They're on their own." 16 kilometers down, Foster's team hit the first major obstacle. The tunnel opened into a massive cavern, and filling it were thousands of drones. All of them turned their sensors toward the humans simultaneously. The optical lights shifted from passive scanning to active targeting. "Oh, that's not good," Hayes whispered. "Grenades first, then fall back to the choke point," Foster shouted. Every Marine threw their remaining explosives into the cavern. The combined detonations lit up the darkness like a small sun. Drones exploded, shrapnel cutting down hundreds more. But thousands remained, surging forward in a metallic tide. The Marines retreated to a narrow section of tunnel where the drones could only approach a few at a time. It was basic tactics using terrain to negate numerical superiority, something humans had learned thousands of years ago, fighting wars with spears and shields. The technology changed, but the principles remained the same. Rotate fire. Don't let them establish a foothold. Foster's rifle was running hot, the barrel glowing from sustained fire. Beside her, Hayes had switched to his sidearm after his rifle jammed. Wilson was down to his knife, stabbing at drones that got too close. They were running out of ammunition, out of time, out of options. On the surface, Shimmer made a decision that surprised everyone, including themselves. The Harmony Elder moved toward the tunnel entrance where other humans were holding a defensive position. I can help. I know these tunnels better than anyone. I can guide you to alternative routes, ways to reach the hub without fighting through the main cavern. The human soldier at the entrance, Brooks, looked at the crystalline being. It's dangerous down there. You understand that, right? You could die. Your people are dying to save mine. Shimmer's colors shifted to determined reds and oranges, shades the Harmony rarely displayed. I will not hide while others sacrifice themselves for my safety. That would be cowardice, and whatever else we are, the Harmony are not cowards. Brooks nodded. All right then. Grab some protective gear. You're coming with the second wave. Deep underground, Foster was calculating how long they had before being overrun. Minutes, maybe. The drones just kept coming, endless and relentless. Her team was exhausted, running on adrenaline and training. Then Rodriguez's voice came through her helmet. Foster, we've got someone down here who knows a back way to the hub. Alternative route bypasses the main cavern.
Can you hold for another 5 minutes?
Foster looked at her dwindling ammunition, at her exhausted team, at the tide of machines that seemed infinite. 5 minutes felt like an eternity, but humans had held impossible positions before. They had stood at gates and bridges and mountain passes, outnumbered and outmatched, buying time with blood and courage. We'll hold. Foster chambered her last magazine. We always do, and they did. For 5 minutes that felt like hours. 8 humans held a tunnel against thousands of machines. They fought with rifles until the ammunition ran out, then with sidearms, then with knives, then with their armored fists. They fought because that was what humans did when something threatened the innocent. When Shimmer arrived with the reinforcements and showed them the hidden path, Foster's team was battered, bleeding, but unbroken. They had held the line because retreat was not in their vocabulary. They had stood between the darkness and the light, and the darkness had broken against them. The Harmony Collective would never forget the day violence came to their paradise, and the day they learned what it truly meant when humans promised to help. The hidden passages Shimmer revealed were never meant for beings as large as humans. Foster had to crawl through sections barely wide enough for her armored shoulders. Behind her, Hayes complained about tight spaces while Ortiz made jokes about being buried alive. It was how humans dealt with fear, turning it into humor, refusing to let terror control them. Tell me something. Shimmer moved ahead with ease, body compressing and flowing through gaps that humans struggled with. How do you joke while moving toward almost certain death? Your probability of survival is less than 30% according to my calculations. Ortiz laughed, the sound strange in the confined tunnel. 30%? I've had worse odds. There was this time on Titan Station when we had to repair an oxygen line during a meteor storm. 5% chance of survival, they said. But here I am, still breathing, still complaining about the food. But you must feel fear. Your biology includes the same stress responses all intelligent species have. Elevated heart rate, hormonal changes, heightened awareness. Yet you continue forward. Of course we're scared. Foster's voice was matter-of-fact. Fear is what keeps us alive. It makes us careful, makes us think. But we don't let it stop us. That's the difference between being afraid and being a coward. Everyone feels fear. Not everyone does their job anyway. The tunnel opened into a smaller chamber. One Shimmer indicated was directly above the central hub. Through gaps in the crystalline floor they could see it. A massive machine, ancient and alien, covered in drones that were maintaining it and expanding it. At its center was what looked like a processing core, glowing with malevolent red light. That's our target. Foster studied it through her helmet's enhanced optics. Wilson, can you place charges that will take it out without bringing down the whole chamber on our heads? Wilson examined the structure, running calculations on his datapad. Maybe, the geometry is tricky. If I place shaped charges at these support points and time them right, the explosion should channel inward and downward. Probably. Engineering isn't an exact science when you're making things explode. Probably is good enough. Foster turned to her team. Hayes, Ortiz, set up a defensive position. When we blow that thing, every drone in this facility is going to come running. We need to hold them off long enough for the charges to detonate. Hayes and Ortiz moved to the chamber entrance, setting up the last of their mobile barriers and checking their remaining ammunition. It wasn't much. A few magazines each, some grenades, and determination. Against thousands of drones, it should have been nowhere near enough. Shimmer watched Wilson place the explosive charges with meticulous care. Your species has such knowledge of destruction. You understand exactly how to break things, where to apply force for maximum damage. Is this taught to all humans? Basic demolitions is part of Marine training, yeah. Wilson secured another charge. But humans have been figuring out how to break things since we learned to throw rocks at predators. It's survival instinct. If something is trying to kill you, you learn how to kill it first. And if later you discover the thing trying to kill you was simply broken, not evil, does that change anything? Wilson paused, looking at the ancient machine. We saw the survey data Rodriguez sent down. This thing is old, probably crashed here centuries ago. Its AI is corrupted, following mining protocols without the intelligence to recognize it's hurting living beings. In a way, it's as much a victim as your people. He finished placing the charge. But that doesn't change what we have to do. Sometimes there's no good choice, only necessary ones. The charges were set. Foster gathered her team. 15 minutes until detonation. We hold this position, no matter what comes through that entrance. Rodriguez, are you tracking us? From orbit, Rodriguez's voice came through clearly. We have your position. Once those charges blow, Wildfire will fire everything we have into the chamber. Should collapse the entire facility, and us with it if we don't get out fast enough. Hayes checked his rifle one last time. No pressure or anything. The first drones appeared at the entrance, sensors sweeping the chamber. They had detected the intruders. Hayes opened fire and the battle began again, but this time there was nowhere to retreat to. They held this chamber or they died trying. Drones poured through the entrance in a metallic flood. The Marines fired in controlled bursts, making every shot count. When one Marine reloaded, another covered. When barriers failed, they fell back to secondary positions. It was textbook defensive fighting, the kind armies had practiced for thousands of years. Shimmer crouched behind cover, watching in horror and fascination. A drone broke through the human line, heading straight for the crystalline being. There was no time to think, only to act. Shimmer thrust forward one crystalline limb harder than the others, the closest thing the Harmony had to a natural weapon. It pierced through the drone's optical sensor, shattering it. Hayes saw it happen. Nice hit. Didn't know you had it in you. Neither did I. Shimmer stared at the destroyed drone, at what they had done. The Harmony Elder had just committed violence. Had chosen to destroy rather than be destroyed. The philosophical implications would take years to process. Right now there was only survival. Ortiz went down, a drone's cutting tool slicing deep into his leg. He screamed, not from pain but from frustration. I'm hit bad. Leg's gone below the knee. I can't move. Foster moved to help him, but Ortiz waved her away. No time, charges blow in 8 minutes. You need to be climbing out of here, not dragging my heavy body around. We don't leave people behind. Foster grabbed his arm. That's not how we do things. And we don't let emotions override tactical sense. Ortiz pushed a detonator into her hand. This is connected to my remaining grenades. I'll hold them here as long as I can. When you're clear, I'll blow it. Should take out at least 100 of these things. Make my last stand count for something. Hayes was there now, tears streaming down his face even as he kept firing. There has to be another way. We can carry you. Not fast enough, Ortiz smiled. Tell my family I went out doing something that mattered. Tell them I saved a whole species today. He looked at Shimmer. Take care of them. The humans, I mean. They're good people, even if they come with guns and explosions. They're trying to help. That's worth something. Foster wanted to argue, wanted to find another solution. But she was a Marine, trained to make impossible decisions. She saluted Ortiz, a gesture of respect and farewell. Your sacrifice will be remembered. Every Harmony life saved is because you stood your ground. The team retreated up the tunnel, Shimmer helping them navigate the narrow passages. Behind them, they heard Ortiz's rifle firing steadily, buying them time with every shot. They heard him laughing, making jokes even as the drones swarmed his position. heard him singing an old Earth song about standing strong against darkness. Then they heard the explosion. The tunnel shook, crystal walls cracking. Foster counted seconds in her head. 5 minutes until the main charges blew. They had to cover vertical distance fast. The humans climbed with desperate speed, armor servos whining with the strain. Shimmer flowed upward, then stopped, reaching back for Hayes, who was struggling with a damaged leg servo. Come on, human.
If Ortiz gave his life for us, we will not waste it by being too slow. Hayes grabbed the crystalline limb and let himself be pulled upward.
Together, Human and Harmony, they climbed toward the surface. Behind them, the timer counted down. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. 1 minute. They burst from the tunnel entrance just as the charges detonated. The ground heaved, crystal structures shattering. The central hub collapsed inward, the ancient machine finally dying after centuries of corrupted existence. From orbit, Wildfire fired kinetic strikes into the collapsing chamber, ensuring nothing would survive. Foster's team lay on the surface, exhausted, injured, but alive. Most of them. Hayes was crying openly now, not bothering to hide it. Wilson sat in silence, staring at nothing. Foster removed her helmet and looked up at the sky, at the stars that humans had reached despite every reason to stay trapped on their dangerous world. Shimmer approached slowly, colors muted with grief. Ortiz, he chose to die so we could live. I do not understand this. Why would any being make such a choice? Because that's what soldiers do. Foster's voice was rough with emotion. We stand between the darkness and the innocent. Sometimes that means making the ultimate sacrifice. Ortiz knew that when he joined up, we all do. Doesn't make it easier, but it makes it meaningful. Around them, the Harmony people emerged from their shelters. The drones had stopped moving, their connection to the central hub severed. Sanctuary was saved, but the cost had been paid in human blood, and the Harmony Collective would carry that debt forever. 3 days after the battle ended, the Harmony Collective held their first memorial service for someone who was not one of their own. Thousands of crystalline beings gathered in the central plaza, their bodies flickering with somber blues and purples. In the center stood a monument made from the same crystal that formed Sanctuary itself, inscribed with 3 names: Ortiz, Stevens, Lee. The last 2 had died holding the surface perimeter when drones had made one final desperate assault. Foster stood at attention in her dress uniform, the one that had survived in her personal locker aboard the Wildfire. Hayes and Wilson stood beside her, along with Brooks and the 3 other surviving Marines. They had cleaned their armor, polished their insignias, and done everything military tradition demanded. But nothing could prepare them for seeing an alien species try to understand human grief. Shimmer approached the monument, colors swirling with emotions the humans couldn't name. The Harmony Elder placed a piece of crystal at the base, one that had been part of their own body. It was the highest honor their species could give, offering a piece of themselves to honor the dead. We did not ask them to die. Shimmer's voice resonated across the plaza. We asked for help, expecting rescue and evacuation. Instead, these humans chose to fight. They chose to stand between us and destruction, knowing they might not survive. This is a concept we have never understood before. Sacrifice, the willing trade of one's own existence for the preservation of others. More Harmony people came forward, each placing crystal fragments at the monument. Some were clearly grieving despite having never met the fallen Marines. They understood on an instinctive level that something profound had happened here. Life had been exchanged for life. Blood had been spilled for strangers. It was the oldest human story, and the Harmony were experiencing it for the first time. After the ceremony, Rodriguez found Foster standing alone near the edge of the settlement, looking out over the scarred landscape where the battle had raged. The Wildfire's captain had remained in orbit during most of the fighting, coordinating from above. Now she needed to face the people who had done the bleeding. How are they holding up? Rodriguez asked quietly. Hayes hasn't stopped talking since we got back. Wilson hasn't said a word. Brooks keeps checking his medical readouts even though he's fully healed. Everyone processes trauma differently. Foster didn't look away from the horizon. We saved 4,000 people. Lost 3. By any tactical measure, that's a successful operation. So why does it feel like we failed? Because you're human. Rodriguez stood beside her. We count our losses differently than we count our victories. Every life lost weighs heavier than every life saved. It's not logical, but it's who we are. She paused. Command is sending a formal investigation team. They want to know why a cargo vessel engaged in military operations without authorization. Foster smiled bitterly. What were we supposed to do? Wait for proper military vessels to arrive 3 weeks from now? Let 4,000 people die because we didn't have the right paperwork? That's what I told them. Along with several other things I'll probably get reprimanded for. But between you and me, every admiral in the fleet wishes they had been the ones to respond. We did something today that will be taught in military academies for decades. 8 Marines held off thousands of hostiles, completed their objective, and saved an entire species. That's the kind of story that becomes legend. Legends leave out the parts where people die screaming. Foster finally turned to face Rodriguez. Did you know Ortiz had a daughter? 6 years old. Now she's going to grow up knowing her father died on some moon she's never heard of, saving people who can't even understand what sacrifice means. They're learning. Rodriguez nodded toward the plaza where Shimmer was speaking with Hayes. The Harmony Elder was actually listening, trying to understand the Marines' rapid-fire coping mechanism of constant talking. Give them time. They've never had to process concepts like war, death in combat, or memorial services. Their entire worldview has been shattered. But they're trying. Later that evening, Hayes found himself surrounded by young Harmony individuals, all asking questions in their chiming voices. They wanted to know about Earth, about human history, about why humans carried weapons and wore armor. Hayes, still processing his grief through endless conversation, found himself becoming an impromptu teacher. So your planet actively tried to kill you? One young Harmony asked, colors bright with fascination. How did you survive? We learned to fight back. Every generation got a little tougher, a little smarter. We figured out how to make fire to keep predators away. Then we figured out how to make spears to hunt those predators. Then we figured out how to make medicine to fight diseases. Every challenge made us stronger. Hayes pulled up images on his datapad showing Earth's diverse biomes. Deserts that would dehydrate you in hours. Jungles full of venomous creatures. Arctic zones cold enough to freeze exposed flesh in minutes. Oceans with predators that could swallow you whole. And humans conquered all of it. But at such cost. An older Harmony Elder had joined the group. So much violence, so much death. Was survival worth becoming killers? Hayes thought about Ortiz, about Stevens and Lee, about every Marine he had ever served with. We're not killers. We're survivors. There's a difference. Killers destroy for pleasure or profit. Survivors do what's necessary to protect what they love. We don't enjoy violence. We're just really good at it when we have no choice. Shimmer had been listening from the edge of the crowd. Now the Elder spoke up, colors shifting to thoughtful oranges. Perhaps that is what makes humans unique. You carry the capacity for terrible violence, but you choose when to use it. You could have destroyed our colony, taken our resources, enslaved our people. Your species has the technology and the training. Instead, you bled to save us. That is not the action of monsters. That is the action of guardians. In the Wildfire's medical bay, Brooks was undergoing physical therapy for his shoulder injury. The wound had healed, but the muscles needed retraining. Wilson was there too, supposedly for a routine checkup, but really because he couldn't stand being alone with his thoughts. The ship's Dr. Patterson worked in silence, understanding that sometimes people needed quiet more than conversation. Do you think they'll be okay? Brooks finally asked. The Harmony, I mean. They've seen things no peaceful species should see. War, death, sacrifice. We've contaminated their paradise with human concepts. Patterson finished applying therapeutic stimulation to Brooks's shoulder. They were already contaminated. The moment those drones started harvesting their people, their innocence ended. We didn't bring violence to Sanctuary. We brought the solution to violence. There's a difference, is there? Wilson spoke up. We taught them that the answer to aggression is greater aggression. That the way to solve problems is through destruction. What if we've started them down a dark path? Or maybe we've given them the tools to survive in a galaxy that's not as peaceful as they thought. Patterson closed his medical kit. Look, I'm not a philosopher. I'm a doctor. I fix bodies, not moral quandaries. But I'll tell you what I believe. Those people out there are alive because you were willing to do violence on their behalf. That's not corruption. That's protection. And if they learn from it, if they develop their own ways to defend themselves, then maybe we've done something good here. Rodriguez called a final meeting of the crew before they prepared to depart. The cargo run to Outpost 7 was 3 weeks overdue, and corporate was demanding answers. But before they left, she needed to address what had happened here. We came to Sanctuary to answer a distress call. We stayed to fight a war. We lost good people, and we saved a species that didn't even understand what saving meant. Rodriguez looked at each crew member. Command is calling us heroes. The Harmony is calling us saviors. But I want you all to remember what we really are. We're humans who saw people in trouble and couldn't walk away. That's not heroism. That's just being human. Foster raised her hand. What happens now? To Sanctuary, to the Harmony? They've requested continued contact with humanity. Want us to teach them defensive tactics. Help them understand the galaxy they thought they knew. Command is considering assigning a training mission here. Volunteers only, of course. Rodriguez smiled slightly. Anyone interested? Every hand went up. Even Hayes, who was still processing trauma. Even Wilson, who hadn't spoken much since the battle. Even Brooks, whose shoulder still ached. They all volunteered because that was what humans did. They helped. They taught. They stood between the innocent and the darkness. Shimmer came to see them off, along with hundreds of other Harmony people. The crystalline Elder's colors were different now, including shades of red and orange that had never been seen in Harmony biology before. Battle colors, survival colors, human colors. You have changed us forever. Shimmer told Rodriguez. We can never return to what we were. The knowledge of violence, of warfare, of sacrifice, it is part of us now. Some of my people fear this change, but I understand its necessity. In a galaxy where machines can harvest innocent beings, where threats can come from beneath our own feet, innocence is not a shield. It is a vulnerability. Rodriguez clasped Shimmer's crystalline limb carefully. Then learn from us. Build defenses. Train defenders, but never lose your compassion. That's what makes you special. You have a chance to combine human strength with Harmony empathy. That's more powerful than either alone. As the wildfire lifted off from Sanctuary, Foster watched the settlement shrink below. The monument to the fallen Marines caught the light, a permanent reminder of what humanity had done here. 3 humans had died, but 4,000 Harmony had lived. The math was cold, but the meaning was warm. Somewhere below, young Harmony individuals were discussing human tactics, human resilience, human sacrifice. They were learning what it meant to survive in a dangerous galaxy. And though they had lost their innocence, they had gained something arguably more valuable. They had gained the knowledge that there were species in the galaxy who would stand beside them when darkness came. Species who would fight, bleed, and die for strangers simply because it was the right thing to do. 6 months had passed since the wildfire departed from Sanctuary. In that time, the galaxy had changed in ways nobody anticipated. News of what happened on that crystalline moon spread through every species, every colony, every station. The peaceful Harmony Collective had been saved by humans, the Deathworlders, the species from the impossible planet. But more importantly, the Harmony had done something unprecedented in galactic history. They had chosen to learn warfare. Shimmer stood in what the Harmony now called the Defense Center, a structure that would have been unthinkable 7 months ago. Crystalline walls reinforced with human-designed alloys, training spaces where Harmony individuals practiced tactics that their ancestors would have considered theoretical impossibilities. And in the center, a memorial wall listing 3 names that every Harmony child now learned in school: Ortiz, Stevens, Lee. The human training team had arrived 3 months ago, led by Foster, who had volunteered without hesitation. She stood now with Shimmer, watching Harmony recruits practice formation movements. They were slow, awkward, their bodies not evolved for combat. But they were learning. More importantly, they were understanding why they needed to learn. Your people are progressing well. Foster made notes on her datapad. They'll never be natural fighters like humans or some of the other species, but they're developing their own style, using their crystalline bodies for defense, learning to coordinate in ways that play to their strengths. Shimmer's colors pulsed with pride and sadness mixed together. We have lost something precious, the innocence of a species that never knew violence. Some of our elders still mourn this loss. They say we should have remained pure, should have accepted extinction rather than learned to fight. And what do you say? I say they are fools who speak from safety purchased with human blood. Shimmer's colors flashed with rare anger. Ortiz did not die so we could remain helpless. He died so we could survive, so we could learn, so we could become strong enough to defend ourselves. To ignore that lesson would be the greatest insult to his sacrifice. An alarm interrupted their conversation. Not a drill. A real emergency signal. Another species, another colony, another desperate call for help. Foster moved immediately toward the command center, Shimmer following. The message was coming from a species called the Gentle Wings, an avian race from a low-gravity world. Pirates were raiding their colonies, enslaving their people. They had sent out the same universal distress signal that the Harmony once sent. Foster pulled up star charts, calculating response times. Nearest human military vessels are 4 days out. We could get there in 18 hours with the right ship. She looked at Shimmer. But we're just trainers here. This isn't our mission. Shimmer stood silent for a moment, colors cycling through complex patterns. Then they shifted to deep crimson. The color the Harmony had learned meant determination and resolve. You asked me once what we would do with the knowledge you gave us. Now we answer that question. The Gentle Wings called for help. We will go. Shimmer, your people have only been training for 3 months. You're not ready for actual combat. Were you ready when you came to save us? Your crew was cargo haulers, not soldiers. Yet you came anyway because waiting for someone better prepared meant watching people die. Shimmer moved toward the communication console. We will never be ready if we never act. And there are people dying while we debate our readiness. Within hours, a combined Human Harmony task force was assembled. Foster led the human contingent, 15 Marines and specialists. Shimmer commanded 20 Harmony volunteers, all of whom understood they might not return. 2 ships departed Sanctuary, heading toward Gentle Wings territory at maximum speed. On the journey, Foster briefed both species together. This is different from Sanctuary. We're not fighting mindless drones. Pirates are intelligent, adaptable, and most importantly, they can retreat. Our objective is to drive them away, not to eliminate them entirely. Show overwhelming force, make it clear that staying is more costly than leaving. A young Harmony recruit raised a crystalline limb. But what if they return after we leave? What if we only delay the problem instead of solving it? Then we teach the Gentle Wings what we taught you. We give them the knowledge to defend themselves. We break the cycle by making every peaceful species strong enough to discourage attackers. Foster pulled up tactical displays. That's the long-term goal. Make peace viable through strength. They arrived at the Gentle Wings colony to find 2 pirate vessels in orbit, smaller craft ferrying captured individuals up from the surface. The avian species were even more fragile than the Harmony, evolved for low gravity and thin atmosphere. They had no defenses, no weapons, no concept of resistance. The pirates had been operating with impunity for weeks. Foster opened communication channels, broadcasting on all frequencies. This is Lieutenant Foster of the Human Defense Force. You are conducting illegal operations in protected space. Withdraw immediately or face military consequences. The pirate response was laughter. Humans, out here. You're a long way from your territory, Deathworlder, and there's only 2 of you against our whole operation. How about you turn around before something unfortunate happens? Shimmer spoke up before Foster could respond. You are not facing only humans. You are facing the Harmony Collective. We are the people of Sanctuary, and we have learned from the best teachers in the galaxy. We do not make empty threats. We do not negotiate with those who prey on the innocent, and we do not forget those who taught us to stand tall. The Harmony ship's weapon systems activated, matching the human vessel. Leave now. This is your only warning. The pirates clearly hadn't expected resistance from the notoriously peaceful Harmony. There was a long pause on the communication channel. Then the pirate ships began repositioning, preparing for combat. They had chosen wrong. What followed was not the desperate battle that Sanctuary had been. This was controlled, precise, overwhelming force applied with surgical accuracy. Human and Harmony ships worked in coordination, targeting pirate weapons and engines while avoiding lethal shots. Foster's Marines deployed to the surface, establishing defensive positions around the Gentle Wings population. Shimmer's team provided medical aid and evacuation support, their crystalline bodies perfect for protecting the fragile avian species. The pirates broke after 20 minutes. They had expected an easy raid, not organized resistance. Their ships limped away, damaged but intact. Foster let them go. The lesson had been delivered. The Gentle Wings were under protection now. On the surface, the avian people approached their rescuers with cautious wonder. They had never seen species like these. Armored humans who moved with predatory grace. Crystalline beings who somehow combined gentle compassion with firm resolve. Together, they represented something new in the galaxy. The protected teaching the protected to become protectors. Foster met with the Gentle Wings elders, explaining what needed to happen next. We saved you today, but we won't always be here. You need to learn to defend yourselves. Not to become warriors, but to become survivors. To make attacking you more trouble than it's worth. The elders looked at each other with their large, expressive eyes. But we are a peaceful people. We have no capacity for violence. Shimmer stepped forward. 6 months ago, I said the exact same words. I watched humans fight and die to save my people, and I thought violence was forever beyond us. I was wrong. We do not seek war, but we have learned to be ready for it. You can do the same. You can remain peaceful in your hearts while being prepared in your actions. Over the following weeks, Foster and Shimmer worked together to establish a basic defense infrastructure for the Gentle Wings. Nothing elaborate, just enough to make raids costly and dangerous. Early warning systems, basic fortifications, communication protocols. But more than that, they taught confidence. They showed a peaceful species that being gentle did not mean being helpless. Word continued spreading. The Harmony Collective and human forces were working together, responding to distress calls, teaching defense to peaceful species. Some called it interference, some called it necessary. The galaxy was divided on what it meant when a Deathworld species taught others to survive. Rodriguez received a communication from Earth Command while the Wildfire was docked at a neutral station. The message was brief but significant. Humanity was establishing a new organization, the Galactic Defense Initiative. Not a military force, but a training and response team. They wanted volunteers to teach other species what humans had learned over millions of years of survival. Foster was offered the position of head instructor. She accepted immediately. Hayes, Wilson, Brooks, and the rest of the survivors from Sanctuary signed on without hesitation. They understood something fundamental about humanity's role in the galaxy. They were not conquerors. They were survivors who could teach survival. Back on Sanctuary, the Defense Center had grown into something remarkable. Harmony trainers working alongside human instructors, teaching a curriculum that combined human tactical knowledge with Harmony compassion. Students from dozens of species came to learn. The lessons were always the same: survive, protect, never give up. In the Memorial Garden, where 3 human names were eternally carved in crystal, young students from across the galaxy came to pay respects. They learned the story of Ortiz, who held the line so others could escape. Stevens, who died defending people she had just met. Lee, who stayed at his post when everyone else evacuated. They learned that sacrifice was not about seeking death, but about protecting life. Shimmer stood in the garden one evening, colors cycling through sunset shades. Foster joined the Harmony Elder, both standing in comfortable silence for a moment. Do you regret it? Foster asked. Everything that's changed? Your species will never be the same. Every day. Shimmer's honesty was absolute. I regret that we needed to change. I regret that violence exists in the universe. I regret that innocence is not a shield against harm. The colors shifted to determined crimson, but I do not regret surviving. I do not regret learning from you. And I do not regret that other species will survive because we chose to become strong. Below them, the first graduating class of Harmony Defenders was conducting their final exercise. They moved with confidence now. No longer the terrified civilians who once fled from the sound of gunfire. They were still the same peaceful species, still valued life and compassion above all. But now they could protect those values with strength. Foster watched them with pride. You know what humans call this? The deterrence doctrine. Be so ready for war that enemies choose peace instead. Not because you want to fight, but because you're prepared to if necessary. And if everyone in the galaxy learns this, if every peaceful species becomes capable of violence, then maybe, just maybe, there will be less violence. Because aggressors only attack those they perceive as weak. Make everyone strong and aggression becomes too costly. Foster smiled. It's not a perfect solution, but it's better than watching innocent people die because they couldn't defend themselves. The Wildfire departed Sanctuary for the last time, heading toward Earth, where the Galactic Defense Initiative headquarters was being established. Rodriguez watched the crystalline moon shrink in the view screen, remembering when they had first arrived to answer a desperate plea. They had been cargo haulers who became warriors for a day. Now they were becoming something else. Teachers, guardians, the bridge between human survival instinct and universal peace. In the depths of space, another distress signal began broadcasting. Another species in trouble, another call for help. But this time, it wasn't just human ships that responded. A Harmony defense vessel altered course, its crew trained and ready. Gentle Wings patrol craft moved to assist, applying lessons learned from their own rescue. Across the galaxy, formerly peaceful species were learning to answer those calls. The Deathworlders had come ready for war when peace was threatened. Now they were teaching the galaxy that being ready for war was the best way to preserve peace. It was a lesson written in human blood, taught with human sacrifice, and spread through human determination. Somewhere on Earth, in a small house, a 6-year-old girl looked at a picture of her father in his Marine uniform. She didn't fully understand where he had gone or why he never came home. But she knew he had saved people far away, people who needed help. When she grew up, she decided she would do the same. She would teach others to be strong, to survive, to protect what they loved. The cycle continued. Humans had survived Earth's attempts to kill them. Now they helped others survive their own challenges, not by fighting their battles for them, but by teaching them to fight their own battles. The galaxy was more dangerous now, but also more resilient. Every peaceful species that learned defense, every colony that built fortifications, every civilization that understood strength was necessary for survival. They all carried forward a lesson humanity had learned the hard way. Violence was not the goal. Survival was. And sometimes survival required the capacity for violence held in check by the wisdom of compassion. That was humanity's gift to the stars. Not war, but the knowledge that peace must be defended by those strong enough to protect it.